episode 215 of the White Cat Outdoors podcast, bringing you to the table while we talk about the outdoors. This week, Frank's absent, so the intro sounds a little bit different as Tom brings us in this week. But we still got myself, Tom, and of course Austin Enterline in studio. Pretty much, this is the end of the year for, deer season, but that basically means that it's just about shed season. Tom's been doing quite a bit of research. He got bit by the bug last year with one of his best years of shed hunting and decided he's going to really dive in, full bore this year. So he's been doing quite a bit of research and kind of lays out his plans for the year, some of the tactics he's going to use. We kind of bounce some ideas we've got from other people that are way better at shed hunting than us. But if you're into shed hunting, hopefully you'll enjoy this episode. But I'm going to quit rambling and let's get tuned in to this week's episode.
I pull up my bow and then I look dead at his antlers. I got out of the truck and when I slammed the door, I heard gobbles all around me.
Let's see it.
Alaska, moose, spot and sock. That is the bucket list. I agree.
White Cat Outdoors. White Cat Outdoors.
What's going on, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to another installment of the White Cat Outdoors podcast. If it sounds like a new voice bringing you in, it's because it is. I'm Tom. Frank couldn't make it tonight, but we got Nick and Austin in the studio with us.
What's going on, everybody?
Hello.
And deer season is pretty much wrapped up. I know it is in Pennsylvania, New York. I know Ohio has like a really long season. I don't know if they're still...
Are you still in season down there or what?
I think it goes till the
It's like
4th
mid-February or
14th.
something?
Yeah, something like that.
That was like second week of February or something.
Yeah, I don't know.
You got any plans to get down there, or are you all done down there?
Pretty much done down there. Maybe I'll go there in March and collect the cameras or something, but pretty much done.
Just let the cameras soak for the rest of the year, see if there's any late season action.
Yeah, they're all cell cameras, so I'm not getting them on my phone. They're just collecting if the battery's still on or not.
Oh, so you're not even getting the pictures sent to your phone right now?
No.
So it's gonna be a big old surprise.
Yeah, that'll be fun going through, but yeah.
So when you go through cameras, do you have like a process, or do you file pictures away, or how do you use cameras, especially like on a lease that's so far away? Like, what are you doing to get into it?
This is kind of the first year I've done it, but I'm just going to pull all the cards, go through them, and just save them to a hard drive if it's worth saving to, but something like that.
So you're going to like kind of just keep all the buck pictures and try and file them, so if you get history with the deer and stuff, you can kind of reference back when he was there the year before and whatnot.
Yep.
Interesting.
You know what else trail cameras are really good for?
No.
Catching trespassers.
Catching trespassers, yeah, they're good for that. But also letting you know when bucks start dropping their antlers, so you know when it's time to go in and start looking for sheds.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
You don't want to go in too early and blow a big buck out of the area and have him drop his sheds on your neighbor's property.
Yeah, I'm starting to see some of my buddies that are a lot more serious into the shed hunting that are already finding sheds and taking pictures of deer that are either missing one side or both. It's shed season is almost here.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that I have not done a lot of in the past. I started out, last year was the first year I actually ever went like shed hunting. I went a handful of times. I found 3 sheds, but kind of caught the bug for it. So I think I'm going to be doing a lot more of it starting this weekend.
It's one of them things where like I go every year and I find small amount of sheds, never anything too crazy. But it's more, I use it as just an excuse to get into the timber and try to locate some beds and stuff like that. Like I've never used a shed to like help map out shooting a deer because at the time that they're dropping that shed isn't where they're at in October necessarily. But like I just like to have an excuse to get through the woods to do something, but I also use it to kind of scout, early season kind of thing.
Yeah, like old scrapes you could find real easy.
Yeah, especially with, if we get the snow and then we've been thawed out, a lot of that like scrapes and
Hot
beds
trails.
and stuff. Yeah, even hot trails because it's been so wet.
Right.
It's really easy to pick that stuff out this time of year. And I don't have to worry about like screwing up, my hunt or anything because it's, months in advance.
And they say scouting
Who's they?
deer hunters
In general?
Yeah, in general. The deer are notoriously lazy animals. So if you add the element of snow and you got, 2 feet of snow, that's going to make it a lot harder for the deer to travel. So they're going to be traveling definitely the path of least resistance through that snow. So they say it's really important to mark where you see the deer trails in the snow because that's really good indication of where they'll be in the fall.
Yeah, I actually know a guy that marks deer trails like with orange tape and stuff, in this time of year.
Oh, yeah.
Or
I've done
there's-
that too.
Oh, have you?
before. Yeah.
Did you see any pattern, marking a trail now and getting like into hunting season?
I think it's more of like a late season type deal. I feel like early fall when it's archery season, I don't think they're running the same trails as normal.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it all depends if the feed's there or feed's not, stuff like that.
I mean, I've seen in the past, like if you've got, say you have a snowmobile that you're checking trails and stuff like that, or, after the season and you're running, corn piles and stuff to feed the deer during the winter, those snowmobile tracks or, side-by-side tracks, they're always loaded with deer tracks, the next time you come through. And like Tom said, it's just a path of least resistance. So you can almost map out where you think they're going to be, year to year based off of that.
And it's good for, locating deer trails that aren't necessarily as easy to see. Like it's pretty easy to see deer trail through goldenrods because it's going to be all matted down, or crossing a creek because it's super wet right there. There's going to be a lot of tracks. But there might be a deer trail through, some timber that there's not a lot of high weeds to mat down, or it's not super wet. It may be more difficult to see, but you'll be able to see it real easy if there's snow on the ground.
Yeah, it's a good point because I know you sit in the tree stand and a lot of times you'll see deer coming down the same trail, like trail I say with, quotations. It doesn't really look like a trail from the tree, but every deer seems to be using that same one.
Yeah, and I would bet if you were to go there in the wintertime, it would be a pretty dominant trail right there, but just not easy to pick out because it might be through, more open hardwoods.
Yeah, last November I was hunting in a spot and I was sitting right on the edge of some really thick goldenrods and European alder, and it was kind of like butted up against a hemlock forest, if you will. And they were all traveling pretty much the exact same route, and I was watching it from about 80 yards away. So the next day I went in and got right, I couldn't really see a trail, but just from the day before, seeing where they were at, got set up, and I had 3 different bucks in bow range. Just from, like I said, there was no visible trail, but for whatever reason, and I haven't quite figured that out of why, but they seem to just, they're creatures of habit. They will follow the exact same trail over and over and over again.
Yeah.
As long as, like, with the same conditions. I know I've noticed that, it depends on, you might get a deer that takes 2 different trails day to day, but if you go there one day with a west wind and you go there in 2 weeks with a west wind, I've noticed a pattern that you'll get not necessarily the same deer, but a large amount of deer coming through the same area.
Yeah.
Based on wind direction. And even in the same stand, I've got a couple stands that are, good for, maybe 2 or 3 different wind directions. And, on a west wind, they may be coming from over here, but then over on a north wind, it's still okay where you're at, but they're coming from a totally different area. So it's always just kind of something interesting to look for and see what deer are doing based on wind, and I try to keep mental notes, and even sometimes I put notes right into onX on the tree stand location.
Yeah.
So you said you're looking to get more into shed hunting.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about what your plans are for that.
So my good buddy Keith, our good buddy Keith, he's been on the show. He's one of the more serious shed hunters that I know, and he always says miles equals piles. So I think that's key. You just got to spend a lot of time walking. Because like last year, I went out maybe 4 or 5 times, and I'd spend, an hour or 2 walking. So I put 10 miles, or maybe at most 10 hours walking. There's a lot of guys that'll do double that in a weekend. They spend all day Saturday, all day Sunday walking.
I have a buddy that's really, really big into the sheds and stuff, and he basically figures about 1 mile per shed on average is what he comes up with. And he's had multiple years where he's over 50 sheds a year.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah. So this kid travels out of state to places, just to shed hunt. But he puts on a ton of miles just walking.
I read an article today, and they said it was a mile per shed. So it's kind of cool to read an article and then hear that's what your buddy also is experiencing.
So when you said you're getting more serious into it, are you planning on mapping, using onX where you've been, or marking where you found sheds to try and reference years past? Because I've also, same kid he marks every single shed that he finds, like a location, and he said year after year he'll find sheds in almost the same spot.
Yeah, I have a mental note of where I found the handful of sheds last year, but last year it was kind of just like an introductory year to me, and I didn't know if it was going to be something that I really liked, and turns out it was. So I think this year I will get a lot more serious about, mapping out areas that I need to check, because in the article I read today, it said 90% of the sheds, obviously you can find a shed anywhere, but 90% are going to be in bedding, travel corridors, or food. So I think you need to break down your properties and hit heavy those 3 things: the bedding, travel corridors, and the food. Not to say you can't find one in the open hardwoods, but
what's the one I found last year walking with you was pretty much 30 yards off the food plot.
Yeah.
Just it seems like most of the sheds I find are usually right around a food plot is where most of mine are found. But I also don't get super deep into bedding shed hunting, which I should, I guess, do more.
I found 3 in bedding last year, and 1 I found looking out the window while I was taking a piss at work.
I don't think that one really counts for shed hunting. It counts as a shed you found,
counts.
But you weren't exactly shed hunting.
I think you guys are telling me a good time to go shed hunting is when it's overcasted and kind of rained.
Right after a rain, yeah. That's a tip from our buddy Keith.
Yeah.
He basically said the sun just hinders your eyesight, walking, into the sun. So he said if it is sunny, you want to walk with the sun to your back. But he said that after a rain, the antlers just glow. And my thing is I'm not as big enough into it to go out and look for sheds in the middle of the rain. So if I wake up on a Saturday and it's raining, probably not going to go until it's done raining, which I guess would still be a decent time.
Well, yeah, but February is always overcasted anyway, which is pretty nice.
Yeah, but I guess, if you think about it, if you look at a dry forest floor, it's kind of like a light brown, with kind of very similar shade of antler. So it might be hard to pick out from 30 yards away. But a fresh rain, that light brown is now dark brown, and the antlers, I guess, glow even more bright brown or almost like white.
Yeah.
When they're wet. So it just really makes them stick out, that color contrast.
So with the reading you've been doing on shed hunting and stuff, do you have an idea of, like you said you're going to start probably this weekend, but have you found any indication on when's like the best time to start looking?
They say the best time to shed hunt is March and April, because by then the majority of the deer have lost their antlers already. But they say deer start losing their antlers anytime from late December all the way till March.
See, I've seen guys shoot deer in rifle season and go to drag them out and their antlers pop off.
Yeah. Or even, I was shed hunting last year, and I saw a nice buck. It was like middle of March. Running off through the woods.
See, that's pretty uncommon for like a larger rack deer to still be holding in March. Like it makes sense for like a spike to hold, but like you figure like them bigger antlers would fall off earlier.
Well, they say a lot, like the bigger mature bucks typically lose their sheds earlier, and it has a lot to do with, one, the stress that they go through during the rut, because they're the ones really doing all the hard chasing, all the breeding. Their testosterone levels drop significantly after the rut, and I guess that has a big factor on when their antlers drop. Where these little bucks, obviously they're chasing and smelling does, but they don't really know what they're doing.
They do that all year round.
Yeah, they're not running themselves absolutely ragged like these big mature bucks are.
How often do we see pictures of little bucks like trying to mount a doe in like July?
Yeah.
You know, at that age, you know, they're just out there having a good time, you know?
Yeah. And they don't have as significant of a testosterone drop. And so they said a lot of times the yearlings, their antlers won't actually shed until new growth pops them off.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Have you, in your research or anything, figured out, like obviously you just mentioned like testosterone drops and stuff, but I've also read a little bit into it, and some people seem to believe that it has something to do with like a mineral or like a like nutritional deficiency.
Yeah, that too.
Being
which
that like
kind of correlates to the time of year.
Yeah, in the wintertime, like food's a lot more scarce. They're not getting nearly the amount of proteins.
Stress level on the deer. Like if they got shot in bow season and are recovering, a lot of their energy will be going to healing that wound. Their antlers will come off.
Well, I know somebody that shot a buck in rifle that was wounded. He was putting it out of its misery. I had a buck tag, used his buck tag on it, but he said he shot and the deer dropped, and when its head hit the ground, both antlers popped off. So it was like, something that had got wounded earlier in the year, opening day of gun, you're talking beginning of December, and both antlers just popped right off.
Stress and
probably not getting the nutrition that it needs, and just a lot of stress. It's kind of interesting to see like the equation and what it takes for them to drop, because like all of us have grabbed a hold of a deer in October, and them things are locked on there. It's they're literally fused to their head.
Unless they have gangrene. Or my sister actually shot a buck and antlers came off, but that's because gangrene. But it was also late season too.
You ever seen them sheds too that looks like half their skull plate came off with the shed too?
Yeah.
Like you wonder what that does. Because like I've seen them where it's another inch and a half below the base. Oh yeah. They're covered in blood, and it just makes you wonder like what kind of damage that does, to the deer long term, or because typically
I've seen a little bit, but I've never something that big.
Frank had one at his house. I don't remember who found it. Do you remember that one that literally looked like it had like a piece of its skull still attached? It was like something I've never seen before. But
yeah, I do remember that.
You think that was from roughhousing trying to fight another one, or?
It could have been, but to me, like if it broke off that much, makes you wonder if they're like literally their brain would be like exposed or something, or if it was just like kind of like a jagged off the top of the skull and it was still covered, but still like that had to freaking hurt.
Yeah, it's amazing what they lived through too.
Oh yeah, they're just so many. Arrows, wounded deer. I've seen multiple guys shoot deer that have prior wounds. Actually, one of Keith's biggest bucks he ever killed, he shot 2 years before. And when he finally connected with it 2 years later, he pulled his original broadhead out of its shoulder.
Yeah, that's nuts.
Like that's a pretty cool story. Like
Yeah.
and it sucks that the deer endured that, but it's wild like how tough. Like I feel like if I got shot in the shoulder with an arrow, that'd be it. You know,
Right.
wrap it up.
Get me out of here.
Yeah. Where like deer just like have this, and I think a lot of it like in the rut too, that testosterone and adrenaline is just pushing them so far.
Yeah, they're literally bulletproof sometimes.
Seems that way,
Yeah.
but I don't know. It's just kind of what makes them
Makes
so
it fun.
like enticing to chase. Is just a creature with so many like unknowns and super tough animals. But
Do you remember that time we were spotting? This is probably going back 10 years ago. We seen that buck that literally, like, moments ago shed its antlers, still had, like, blood trickling down his face.
yeah, that was pretty wild. I mean, yeah, it had to have like minutes before we saw him because there literally you could see like blood rushing down the front of his face. Like not rushing, but like there was. I mean, from 40 yards into a field in the dark with a spotlight, you could clearly see that there was blood coming off his face. It was that
Had
was
I
nuts.
known any better, I would have asked the landowner for permission because it would have been super easy. Probably would have been
That was
able to.
before Onyx too.
Yeah, but if you could have got permission, you honestly probably could have followed a blood trail in the snow right to those sheds,
Yeah, that's a good point.
Mm.
or at least the tracks.
Yeah, that's another thing that we haven't been able to do for months. I'm excited to get back into doing some spotting. Because I'll be honest, even spotting now when like most of their antlers are falling off, it's still a great time.
You guys
Just-
still spot
Oh yeah,
in early spring or late winter?
if I looking for something to do at night, yeah, absolutely. I always keep a spotlight loaded up in the truck just in case.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the Chevy's always got one stock.
I don't know if Fords do that or not, but yeah, Chevys just come
Yeah, I'll have
stock
to
with a
look into
spotlight.
that, but
Get a Milwaukee spotlight or something.
yeah.
But do you have any goals or aspirations this shed season, Nick?
I just want to keep my streak alive of getting at least one a year.
You're not diving in gung ho.
No,
all
I
into
don't.
it?
I do not have the time.
When did that start? The one a year?
When you got Hank.
4 years ago.
Yeah, however old Hank is.
And technically, I found one the year before that on a turkey hunt in May, but I wasn't like actively looking for a shed. I was coming around a bend on a trail, and there it was, tucked in this little bush. But yeah, so the last 4 years is like basically when I started like intentionally going out looking for sheds, and every year I've found at least one. And I don't know what it is, but like I get so excited getting that first shed of the year.
It is awesome feeling.
Yeah, because I mean, it seems like that first one is so much more hard earned than anyone after that. Like, because it seems I always like if I like the years I find multiple, I'll find the first one. It might take me 2 or 3 weekends to get that first one, and then it's like boom, boom, boom. Like the 1 year, I went like 4 or 5 weekends in a row, could not find shit, and then in 1 weekend I found 3. So it was like, what's going on? And that was all in the same chunk of woods. So it's I don't know. It's kind of like I said, a good excuse for me to get out in the woods because I'm just like itching to get ready for turkey season, but it's not. We're still months away, but it's going to sneak up on us. But it's just kind of a nice thing to do in the meantime.
Yeah.
Anything else, Tommy?
Oh, I was wondering if you were going to ask me what my goals were.
Oh, Tom, what are
Yep.
your goals for shed season?
So I got a couple. Goal number 1 being I want to put on at least 50 miles shed hunting.
How are you
50
going
mi-
to track that?
Does Onyx have a
Yeah,
tracking?
they have a tracker on there.
Yeah, but with
Also-
your phone's going to be dead.
Yeah, that chews up your
No, I got a
battery.
new phone.
It's still going
Even
to.
if you do, that chews up your battery
It chews
like
up
crazy.
a ton of battery.
Because it's also tracking and showing where you walk through the woods too. I've done it before, and I mean, by the end of
It's
the
nice
day-
for blood trails.
Yeah, I mean that would.
Well, I can always get one of them things you hook to the side of your boot and they just count. I'm not into the Apple Watches.
Get a Garmin watch.
Yeah, you could.
That sounds manly.
What do they call them things that they gave you in health class, like back in middle school, that count your steps?
Fitbit,
That's not it. No, it was like something ometer.
stepometer.
I don't know. Probably not.
I know what you're talking about. I can't remember.
Yeah, remember like in middle school, your health teacher's like, here, try to get 10,000 steps a day.
Yeah.
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 So,
I was just curious to how you plan to log 50 miles, or you're just going to be like, that had to have been 10 right there.
Yeah.
It was like 3.
No, it shouldn't be that hard to figure out.
You should just count your steps while you do it.
We'll just get one
Like
of
keep
them
it like
step
a
counters.
notepad, and every step you take, just put a pencil tally while you're walking.
It's a good idea.
Maybe I'll just get one of those ones that automatically counts my steps. And then times that by 3. That's how many steps I took. And divide it by...
Why would you multiply by 3?
Every step
is a
is
yard.
3 feet.
Oh, yeah, but you said multiply by 3. That's how many steps I took.
Well, that's how many feet I walked. And then divide it by, 5,280? That'll get me how many miles?
I can see how this number could get skewed.
50 miles.
I like the idea.
I want double-digit sheds. And I want to find at least one,
Buck you would shoot shed?
yeah.
I've yet to do that. I've never found like a big shed while shed
I don't
hunting.
even need like a big shed. I just need like a 2.5-year-old 4 on one side.
I have found those, but I've never like found like a Pope and Young class shed.
Like a pop can size.
Yeah, like 60-inch shed or something.
Yeah.
50, even like a 50-inch shed somewhere. Like I've never found anything like that.
Now, are you guys checking new areas too?
I do a lot of my shed hunting on public, mainly because I can cover a ton of ground. I have one farm that I have access to hunt that I shed hunt every single year and try and get some intel. The problem is that I'm not the only one that has access to this. Pretty much anybody that goes to this farmer and says, hey, can I deer hunt? Absolutely. The one field edge, I swear to God, there is a stand every 75 yards along this field edge. And so I check it every single year to see how much it looks like it's getting used and if it's going to be worthwhile to try and hunt. I never want to forget about that property, if you know what I mean. Because it's a big tract of timber, and Tom and I have seen a lot of good deer in fields at night around it. So it makes sense that there could be some good deer in there, but I also am not going to, hunt with, right shoulder to shoulder with a bunch of other yahoos.
Right.
Because the one year I went out there deer hunting, and about 45 minutes before light, some dude drives his pickup truck out into the middle of the field, jumps out, grabs his crossbow, walks across the middle of the field, climbs up in a stand. 45 minutes before dark. I'm like, is this a joke? Literally just left his truck 100 yards from the woods.
I mean, that's what I do, but no, I don't.
You don't want to get in there too early and blow the place up.
Yeah.
Get in there at prime time and minimal damage.
I had some doe out in the field, and all of a sudden I see these headlights come up over the hill down through the the tractor path, and I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? So that's like the frustration and why I stick to private a lot, because that fries me.
Yeah.
Like if I took the time to set up a tree stand, get up there, scout it in March and April and whatnot. Turkey hunting, I'm still scouting, so I put I probably log 20 hours on that property a year for me to go sit and waste an evening for some dude to do that. So it's like
pretty frustrating.
Yeah, so that's what I still scout it every single year and try and get some intel, and I learn a little bit more every single time I go, because I mark different points and things I check out to, see what's repeating itself, and I'm hoping it's one of them properties that every few years I can jump in there and get on something. But just hopeful, wishful thinking.
Austin, do you have any plans as far as shed hunting goes?
I always say you find them when you're not looking for them, so I'm just going to put the boots to the ground this weekend and see what I can get.
Now, I've also heard it's a lot easier to find them once you develop the eye for it. Because I could guarantee you I've walked past sheds before.
Not me.
Without even knowing it.
Not me, yeah.
There's never been a shed that It's been within 100 yards of me that I didn't find.
Do you ever take your dog out?
Oh, yeah.
Sniff around for sure?
Yeah, the first year I had him, I took him out. But the problem is my dog doesn't listen for shit, so I
Yes.
can't really let him off the leash very long. Because like he's good for a little bit, but the longer he's off the leash, the more of a free man he feels he is. So like, the first hour he'll come back to you. Like second hour, and maybe get him to come back. He takes his good old time. By the third hour, a couple miles in, no, he's doing his own thing. Yeah, and it got to be, I was chasing him around, and he'll find, he doesn't care if it's a shed, a hip bone, a rib bone. He pulls everything, which I guess is cool. I guess he's on the right track. But I will say the year I hunted with him the most was the year I found the most sheds. The other issue I have with it is ticks seem to be really bad in the times, like in that early March that I'm going.
Oh, really?
I've run into a lot of ticks. I've had to bomb my truck twice, like bug bomb it, or tick bomb, I mean. Like literally get into my truck and I can count 24 of them,
Really?
like just crawling on. Oh, yeah, it's been bad. So like I don't want to like subject him to that either. It's just not worth it. I always said when I got him, it was... he was a buddy first and a hunting dog second. And I just don't feel like dealing with, like Lyme disease and stuff.
Yeah.
I do have a little announcement. Not really pertaining to shed hunting, but I won my first gun.
Did you?
Well, yeah.
At the gun raffle last weekend. Little Henry Golden Boy, 22.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, pretty sweet.
You shoot it yet?
No, I haven't even picked it up.
Oh.
I'm heading that way tomorrow, so I'm just gonna swing in tomorrow and.
I don't know. That's just like a standard gun that
Everybody
has to be
should
on.
have.
Well, I was gonna say that has to be on every gun raffle ticket. I don't know that I've ever gone to a gun raffle that didn't have a Henry Golden Boy.
Yeah, pretty much and it's mostly a floor gun.
Yeah.
But I mean, my dad's had one for probably 8 years that has not come out of the box. It's just it's a cool gun to have.
Kind of like a showpiece.
Yep, and that's pretty much, I don't know that I'll shoot it much. It's going to be more of a, hang above the fireplace, looking nice kind of gun. But yeah, I was pretty jacked up. Gotta love the free beer at gun raffles.
Well, I love a good gun raffle.
Yeah. Bunch of hot dogs and Italian sausage and all you can drink beer. But
Perfect.
on that note, just wrap it up there. Tom, you got anything to interrupt me with before we close it out?
Nope, that's about it.
All right. Well, like Tom said, shed season's pretty much about here. So if that's your sort of thing, you know what to do. Get outside.